Good day everyone, I am Arjun A. Mahinay. Today I'm tasked to report about the article of Christine Mitchell, which is When Living is Fate Worse Than Death. So, who is Christine Mitchell? So, Christine Mitchell is an American filmmaker and a bioethicist and the executive director of the Center for Bioethics at Harvard Medical School, or the HMS. So, she was born on December 8, 1951. So, Mitchell studied nursing at Boston University, where she earned both bachelor's and master's degrees in the field. Also, she studied philosophical and religious ethics and the ethics of care at Harvard University and the Harvard Divinity School, where she also earned a master's degree. And now let's proceed to our article summary. So, there was a patient named Charlotte. She's a girl that born with a malformed brain. So, when we say malformed brain, damages the developing nervous system or causes it to develop abnormally. So sometimes it's a genetic problem. In other cases, exposure to certain medicines, infections, or radiation during pregnancy interferes with brain development. So she was wrapped in a sac that grew outside her skull and had to be surgically removed to prevent immediate death. So Charlotte's parents wanted to do everything they could to save their little girl, so they traveled all the way from Haiti. So the author speaks of how Charlotte would fight every day through all the she went through with going back and forth from hospital to hospital. So for 16 months, Charlotte's bounced back and forth between hospital, home, and the ER. And also pediatric um, nurse homes. So every time her body tried to die, nurses and doctors staved off death each time. So Charlotte got weaker. So at the end of this story, Charlotte died with peace of mind and without any sufferings anymore. So in this article, um, it argues that sometimes allowing the patient's family to make decision for painful procedures or tests to be um, can actually cause more pain and discomfort and possibly more setbacks in the patient's health. So, while the author includes good, strong emotional appeals in the text to make this more effective, she also includes possible arguments about the patient's parents because she assumes that the parents think that the United States must have the best medical, unlike where they come from, which is Haiti. So at the end of this story, parents choose to make their daughter rest, and Charlotte died with peace and no suffering at all. So the characters of this story are the nurses, doctor, Charlotte, and parents. The settings is at the hospital. The plot of the story is every time Charlotte's body tried to die, nurses and doctors staved off death each time Charlotte got weaker. So in the conflict, patient's family made a decision that causes painful experience for them if they choose to make their daughter alive but suffering or internal rest without or with no pain at all. So for me, as I read this article or this story, for me, the theme of this story is it's better to die peace with no pain at all than to live with lots of suffering. So the lesson of this story for me is doctors always do their job and parents always do their very best just to make their children safe and sound. So the author's tone of this article is painful and negative tone. painful because doctors also felt guilty in the heart um, here because they lost someone even though it's patient's fate. So even with us, it's hard for us, or we're not happy if we lost someone we love. Next is the author's argument is ineffective because the text lacks in facts, is one-sided, and gives a negative tone. And now let's proceed to the story analysis. So being a parent is not an easy job. Yes, it's true because I'm now a parent too. So there's a quote written by Duna Bell perfectly describing about motherhood, and it says that motherhood is a choice you make every day to put someone else's happiness and well-being ahead of your own, to teach the hard lessons, to do the right thing even when you're not sure what the right thing is, and to forgive yourself over and over again for doing everything wrong. So there is not a book on parenting. So every day you must make a choice based on your own judgment that will affect another human being. That will affect, I mean. So even during a life or death situation, there is no right or wrong choice. But again, a choice where someone else's life is dependent on it. So in the midst of making these decisions, you feel the decisions are in the best interest of the person. So while others may feel that your decision is wrong, as a parent, you are left to make these hard decisions. In the article of um, Christine Mitchell, which is "When Living is a Fate Worse Than Death." So the author argues that the parents' decision to prolong the life of their daughter caused her more agony because she had to endure painful procedures, leaving her in discomfort. So Christine tries to draw to the readers in by using emotions to argue her points, but lacks logical reasoning and explanation. If the author used more reasoning in her article, it would have made her argument more effective. Every parent should be allowed to make a decision for their child based on their judgment. So Mitchell expressed her thoughts on parents deciding to prolong life of terminally ill patients should be secondary to the well-being of the child. So Charlotte, um, as a patient, was the patient of Michelle, referring to her article. Her illness stemmed from her brain growing outside of her skull, so requiring immediate removal to prevent death. So for me, being a parent, it's really hard to choose if I want to see my child alive but suffering, or dead but peacefully rest in peace with no pain at all. It's a very difficult decision to make in my internal life.